Oh my god, oh my god. Don't choke it, don't choke it. Nah, just kidding. There we go. Number 32 on the ILL. Done with real world inputs. And more to come. Hey everyone, for those of you who made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. And yeah, now I just kind of wanted to go over real quick a bit of what makes this level so difficult. So I have kind of a slowed down showcase, that I recorded here, still with my mod running. And so right off the bat, you can see that it's very macro buffed. And basically what I mean by that is that a macro was essentially recorded and then the level was buffed around that to make it pretty much as hard as physically possible for the given macro. And so that's kind of why all of these items can be seen. You have to get so close to all these spikes. Now, a good bit of what makes this so hard with the robot is that it has to do swift inputs. And so one of those is right around here, I think. Yeah. So if you look right there, and that's why the press counter went 0 here. I know some of you have been a little confused with these are counting up here. They're basically counting the number of times that I do a press for. This one is counting, how many times did I do a 3-frame press? How many times did I do a 2-frame press? A 1-frame press? And then it does that for releases as well. And then here at the bottom, these are swift inputs, which basically means that within a 1-frame window, you're pressing and then you're releasing on the same frame. And so these are decently common to find in top ILL levels. But the thing is, for my robot, they still pose a good bit of difficulty because it essentially has to move down, it's like 0.2 millimeters. It has to move down that amount and move up. So once you're talking about physical movement, that gets a lot harder to do. So yeah, that right there, that was the first swift of the level. Here, it's obviously just more macro buffs. And then another thing is I had to record this. I had to record the level on like a very, a version of the level that had not many objects, because when I run these macros, or when I run, these recordings for my bot to do, I have to do them on a version that has almost no objects so that it doesn't lag, because lag will kill it instantly. And so, in case you didn't see right there, that was another 5 swift inputs that it just had to do. And so, obviously, pretty difficult, but for where I have my bot right now, it can handle them all right. So now I'll kind of just let this run for a good bit more. This first ship part is, I would say, definitely the hardest part that my bot will mess up still a good percentage of the time. This UFO is not that bad at all. It actually, this part of course is, as you can see, very difficult if you look at that gap that it just passed there. And then you look at like some of this spam that it has to do. Keep in mind, you can't just do a click every frame, because you have to stay within the 15 click per second rules for the ILL. And so that, still makes this a good bit difficult. But this UFO was definitely not quite as hard. You can see here, it's definitely more open. I think partially because a lot of the difficulty for that part is do the part however you want, and then you need to have the right alignment to fit through this gap right here. And then, yeah, this ship, honestly, straight fly is not that hard for the bot. So that kind of takes us to the halfway point here. You can see there's been some 3-frame presses, 2-frame presses, a few 1-frame presses, and then 6 swift inputs, which is definitely significant. This next part is, this is especially where I wanted to show what the hitboxes look like, because you can't see it in the video since I had to delete some objects that would make this more visible. But yeah, it is very, very tight. Pause. But yeah, it really makes you wonder how in some of these it's not even like hitting the hitbox. But this part was actually so difficult that when I made a copy initially, my macro kept failing. And the reason why is when you make a copy of the level, it unless you have a high precision mod downloaded from Geode, objects that are moved with free move, which is kind of where you can just drag stuff around in the editor, they get rounded to a certain spot. And so they basically get rounded to a position where all of a sudden maybe they've moved 1/100th of a unit and they're in your way now and you die. And so just very subtle things like that are important when you're recording something of this true difficulty. So you can see here, obviously, it's not really letting up much. We've also managed to rack up a good number of, small frame releases. I just track these numbers because these are probably the most, these are the most difficult for the bot. It used to struggle to even do 3 frames consistently. Now it can kind of do all these pretty consistently. Swifts are, of course, the hardest. It's also worth noting that a level like this, I don't bot myself. I basically just go to the Silicate Discord server and just, find an existing macro for it, which is a lot easier because I tried botting this initially and I couldn't even get like 5% through the ship. So let this continue now. This honestly doesn't seem like it's quite as bad, but I'm sure there still is some alignments they've based stuff in here that makes it decently difficult. I think that was actually, if we go back here, I had to actually use player 2 in this part for something, yeah. So you see how in the input logs down here, this is my newest version that I have up to date with the mod. It's all been player 1, button 1, which just means like if you think about a person, it's just like spacebar. But then I had to put in player 2 for this input, and the reason why is it basically came like right after the other input, and so just to make it easier, I was like, let me just let the other solenoid help out here instead of trying to overwork one solenoid, and then, I might die here more and get more frustrated with that. So yeah, obviously just more macro buffs here. You can see in the spam sneaking in spikes that are basically going to hit you unless you follow the exact frame that you're supposed to tap on. And then right here, this was another input that I used player 2 for because it involved, doing press on this frame, release on the same frame, and then press on the same frame again. And so that's something that press, release, press on the same frame, that's like a double Swift kind of. At least that's kind of how I visualize it. And that's stuff that, I know you guys mentioned Carmine Bullet. I think I've seen Rain, Ganja Wizard. Those are all 240 aligned levels that are harder than this one. And the reason I'm hesitant on those for now is because I have to do these inputs. And the issue is, this input, it was just 2 orbs, so the timing doesn't matter if I just press it twice. It doesn't matter if I go like press, press, release, release, if that makes any sense, as long as I just get 2 presses in. But those other levels I mentioned that are harder than this, a lot of times is a dash orb followed by a jump, so you have to go press, then release, then press again on to make sure you survive. If you don't go in that order, you'll die. And that gets a bit more difficult in terms of what you're actually doing. So that's mostly it for the level here. There's just some straight fly here, which, you can tell it's decently high. Actually, it's not even as high CPS as I thought. I think this was played on half speed here. So this is 12 CPS. I just recorded this on half speed so it didn't lag as much because I didn't feel like dealing with that. That jump was in the macro. I didn't want to mess with it because if you notice these like slopes that the cube's moving up and down, I didn't know if it was something where like, oh, you have to jump at that specific moment to get the alignment right, because as you can see with this last jump here, it's basically touching the hitbox trail in like every way possible. But yeah, that's it for this level. That's a good overview of it. Here these were kind of the overall stats for the robot, and I think my robot ended up making 0 inaccuracies, which was absolutely great. And so yeah, thanks again for 1,000 subs, and hopefully there's more new artists on the way soon.